ethics is. And if I ask you what ethics is, I think you could all tell me. It's about right or wrong, moral principles, right? Right or wrong, good or bad. Okay, we all know that. You've had ethics in other courses, right? You've had. They talk about accounting ethics. They talk about marketing ethics. What's right or wrong in business, right? Okay. Now, you've had it in your classes because it's usually in every business textbook, whether it's marketing, whether it's accounting, whether it's management. They always talk about ethics in business textbooks. And the interesting thing is, years ago, ethics was not taught in business. See, I studied business years ago, long before you were born. Okay. I'll tell you a secret. I'm a fairly old guy. I'm a really old guy. And I studied business uh, in Chicago. I studied at a school called the University of Illinois in Chicago. Okay. And I went to school and I did a 4-year degree in business. And I have other degrees after that, but this was my first degree. And I was a young guy at the time. And the year that I started, okay, here it is, 1973. You get that? That's almost 50 years ago. So 1973, I started as the first year in at the University of Illinois in the business program. And I graduated with my bachelor's degree in business 4 years later in 1977. That's how old I am. Now, keep in mind, I was very young when I attended university because I skipped a grade when I was a kid. Okay, but still, I'm an old guy. All right, so I studied business almost something like 50 years ago, in the mid 70s, 1970s. Now, back in the 70s, we studied a lot of same courses as you study today. A lot of the things were the same, like accounting. I studied accounting. We had debit and credits in accounting. Okay. I studied marketing. We had the 4 P's of marketing. We studied organization behavior. We studied management. We studied business. And so all these subjects were the same and similar topics. The one difference, nothing about ethics, zero. Okay. If you went to my business textbooks, zero about ethics, nothing. See, ethics was not added into business until approximately about 30 to 25 years ago when I first started teaching ethics here at Seneca. I was one of the founding professors of the ethics program here at Seneca. Okay, that's when we decided we should add ethics into the business curriculum. Other universities did the same. They added in MBA programs. They added ethics in the business program about 30 years ago. They started doing it. Now, let me ask you, why is it that 50 years ago in 1970s, 75, and when I was studying business, they didn't study ethics. And now suddenly we have so much about ethics in business. What do you think changed from the time I went to school and studied business to the time right now, when we have lots of ethics courses and ethics in business? Any ideas why ethics became such a big thing in business? Any idea there? You can just type any ideas if you have. Okay. Okay. So you've got some good ideas there. You said they act as standards of code of conduct, right? Grace says business scandals. Yes, you hit it on the nail there. Business scandals. Okay, we'll talk about that. Environmental issues. Good point. Yeah, it's true. Back in the 70s, if you asked me, what is global warming? What is climate change? I wouldn't be able to tell you. We had not we didn't talk about climate change or global warming in the 70s. Nothing about that. And then later when science told us, the humans are causing global warming, then suddenly it became a business issue. Okay. So really, in the 70s, if you wanted to study ethics, you had to study religion because you belong to religion. Religion tells you what is right and wrong according to the religion, right? Or you had to study philosophy. Okay. And philosophy has ethical theories. Okay. But there was no ethics in business. So only in the last 30, 25 years when I started teaching ethics, it was added. And a lot of it was because of what happened in business. What started it was ethics was added to business programs due to a change in public expectations. Okay, and what changed these expectations? Here I have a situation, a case here called the Ford Pinto, probably the key mark case in the 70s. It took place in the 70s when I was going to university. Okay, in the mid 70s, that started this push for ethics in business. See, the Ford Pinto was a very popular car, and they were selling millions of these cars. Ford was, and it was a cheap car. It was really fun to drive. People loved the car. Okay, but there was a design flaw in the car. The design flaw was the gas tank was placed somewhere. They're all placed in the back, but it was somewhere in a bad position, so that, let's say the Ford was parked in a stop sign or stoplight, and another car came from behind and rear-ended the car in a relatively low speed. Okay, and what would happen is, the car would maybe bump the Pinto, and it would rupture the gas tank, and the gasoline would spew into the passenger compartment of the car, and a spark from the collision would ignite the gasoline and burn everyone inside. Terrible. Okay, terrible. And people died because of that. And then the engineers discovered there was a design flaw because of that, because people were dying because of the design flaw. And they could have fixed the problem. They said, we can fix this problem. And one of the solutions, they said, we can install this rubber lining around the gas tank. And they went to the CEO, a very famous CEO named Lee Iacocca. They made a movie about him, a famous CEO. And they went to Lee Iacocca and they said, "Sir, we can fix this problem for about $11 per car. Shall we go ahead and do it? And it will prevent all these deaths." And Lee Iacocca said, "No." He said, "People don't want safe cars. They want cheap cars." That's what he said. He said, "People don't care about safety. They just want a cheap car. Don't fix it." And see, Ford executives, they got together and they did this cost benefit analysis. And they calculated, they said, well, if we fix the car, it costs $11 per car. But, we sell like something like 12 million per year. That's a lot of money, right? If we do nothing, some people will die. Okay, some people will die, and we're going to get sued. The families of the victims are going to sue us, right? And we'll probably have to pay out some damages, and so that's going to cost us some money too. So they said, well, what they calculated? They said, well, actually, you know what? It's cheaper if we just get sued because it's not going to cost us that much. It's more expensive if we fix the problem. So what did they decide? Well, Ford executives could have fixed the problem for $11 per car, but it was cheaper just to let their customers burn. Isn't that crazy? See, they made this calculation. They estimate, okay, 180 people will die per year. Okay. And if we do nothing and get sued, well, that's going to cost us maybe 49.5 million. Okay. But if we fix the problem, we've got like 12 million cars here. For $11 per car, that's going to cost us 137 million. Says, well, it's cheaper. It's cheaper to do nothing. We'll save ourselves 80 million bucks. So let's just do nothing. You say, that sounds crazy. Intentionally allowing people to burn to death in order to save money? But that was the thing back in the 70s. See, it was perfectly legal. Car crash tests were not required by the US government until 1977. That was the year I graduated from university with a bachelor's degree. It was perfectly legal. And nobody knew about it until, the late 1977. And so, the thing is, people, when they found out, they were outraged. And can you imagine? I kind of remember this because, I was a university student at the time. And you say, they really knew about what would happen. They intentionally allowed people to die, and they did nothing. And Ford was the first U.S. company that was sued for homicide. Homicide is murder. So the first U.S. company that was sued for murder because they knowingly allowed people to die. But you see, back then, executives, all they thought about was profit. They thought, what was the most profitable thing to do. And in their own minds, they weren't doing, they weren't doing anything wrong because they were just doing the most what made sense in terms of profit. Okay, so again, it was this key case that kind of started people thinking, maybe business should care more about people, should care about society, should care about the environment. People, business should care more than just making profit. Okay, and then the other case that came to light, oh, and by the way, that's why today safety is everything. Today we buy safe cars, right? Everything is safety. If you're going to buy a car, do you care about safety? I bet you'd all say yes, right? Yeah, you don't care because these days, cars are very safe. We've got airbags, we've got side impact beams, we've got lots of safety features. And today, if you get in an accident, chances are you survive. In many cases, you survive. In my time, in the 70s, I drove in the 70s this big, I didn't drive the Pinto, but I drove another car. But if I got in that same accident in 50 years ago, I probably would have died. Okay, the same accident in the 1970s would have killed me, but today you'd probably survive. Okay, so what we're saying is car safety has become a big issue now. And part of being ethical is people saying, well, we need safe cars. That's part of, public expectation has changed. Okay. So today people do want safe cars. And so we can remember, well, you don't remember, but you might have studied this in your accounting textbooks, Enron, right? They went bankrupt due to accounting scandal. And back then it was the seventh largest US corporation, bigger than IBM, bigger than Sony at the time. And in the early 2000s, the stock price rocketed up to $95. But when they discovered it was accounting scandal, it was complete fraud, the stock price went down to zero. Okay, and the founder of Enron, a guy by the name of Ken Lay, he was convicted and got 165 years in jail for this. Now, he died of a heart attack before going to jail, and people said he got what he deserved. But this happened because Enron, the accountants and the executives, they told the accountants, we want you to make Enron appear profitable when it really wasn't. Okay, and because of these scandals, public expectations said, this is not right. A business should tell the truth, should be honest. And so things started to change. So that's why business has been added into the business curriculum in the last 30, 25 years. Okay. So that's what ethics is about, helping us to make good decisions which determine the course of your life and in your professional career as well. And I don't know, some of you may want to become professionals, have a good job, become a professional. Some of you might say, well, I want to become a CPA, or some of you may say, I want to become a financial services professional, or some of you may say, I want to become a human resources professional, or maybe even an entrepreneur type professional, or a banker, some type of professional. And if I were to ask you, why is it so important? In every profession, they have a code of ethics. And the code of ethics says every member of this profession must adhere to this code of ethics. Otherwise, you get kicked out of the profession. So why is it so important for every profession to have a code of ethics, to insist on ethical behavior? Why is that so important? Some of your responses here. Integrity, yes. Absolutely. Reputation, yes. Protect the reputation of the profession. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're spot on. We need to protect the reputation of the profession. And let me ask you this. Who do you trust more? Your doctor or this guy, a used car salesman? Who do you trust more, huh? Who do you trust more? And I think all of you would say, of course, my doctor, right? Of course, the doctor, And why is that? Why is that? Of course, you'd say your doctor. I think 100% of you would say doctor, because you don't trust the salesman because you're thinking to yourself, well, the salesman, he just wants my money, especially a used car salesman. One needs to be registered under the organization to practice. Exactly. Yes, you do. And to be a doctor, you need to be registered as a medical professional. Okay. And so we trust doctors because they have to adhere to their code of ethics. To be a member of the profession, you have to adhere to the code of ethics. Used car salesman, you don't have to. And he has a bad reputation. We think when he sells me a car, he's not thinking about my good. He's thinking about his good. His good is to make money, and he wants to make money off of me. He may know this car is a piece of junk, that it's going to break down next week, but he don't care. He can sell it to me because once he sells it to me, he makes money off of me, so he don't care, right? So that's why. But a doctor is not supposed to do that. A doctor is supposed to act in my best interest, even when it's less profitable for the doctor. Okay. So that's why every profession has their code of ethics. A professional is someone with specialized skills and training, has to be licensed and certified to practice that profession. And it's more important to have ethical behavior in that profession because professionals provide an important service to the public, okay? Important services. Doctors provide medical services. Accountants provide accounting services, financial services. Think about this. If accountants didn't do their job and they were not trusted, the stock market would collapse, just as Enron stock collapsed when they realized they couldn't trust the accountant. See, so you have to protect the reputation of the profession. And the professional has what we call fiduciary relationship. Fiduciary means a relationship of trust. I have to trust that my professional is telling me the truth and is seeking my best interests. If the doctor says to me, my doctor says, Mr. Eng, I need to do a heart operation on you. Okay, if I don't do this operation, your health could be at risk and you could even die. Okay, now I don't know about my heart. I don't know nothing about medicine. I have to trust the professional's judgment that the doctor is seeking my best interest. And if he wants to do a heart operation on me, it's for my own good, not because he wants to make money, but for my own good, that he wants to save my life, improve the quality of my life to do this operation. See, so that's why it's so important because he's dealing with my life. Okay. So again, very important services. If I can't trust engineers are professional. I would be afraid to go into an office building because I'd be afraid that it would collapse in high winds. If there's a storm, a thunderstorm, I don't want to go into the building because I'm afraid that the thunderstorm would create the building to collapse. But I trust that the building is secure because I trust in the civil engineer who made the plans to build that building. So it's important that we trust professionals. They build our bridges, build our buildings. They provide our medical services, important services that we need to trust them. All right. So again, what are the most trusted professions in Canada? Well, nurses are number one. According to a recent survey, 92% of Canadians trust nurses. And nurses were the heroes during the COVID pandemic, right? They worked so hard to take care of patients under stressful conditions. A lot of nurses really burnt out during that time. But we trust our nurses, and they're the heroes of the pandemic, okay? And what other professions do we trust? What do you think would be number two? We just talked about them. What do you think would be number two? Any ideas? Number two after nurses? Doctor, yes, you are right, Grace. You are right. Doctors, yes, of course. We trust our doctors. It's so important to trust our doctor, right? If my doctor says I need a heart operation, I got to trust his judgment, right? Okay. And close and then equal is also scientists. 89% trust our scientists. And I think that's why a lot of people took the vaccine, right? Because you have to trust the scientists who created the vaccine made a safe and effective vaccine that I'm not going to have bad side effects from the vaccine. So, we have to trust the scientists who created the vaccines. Other professions that are trusted, teachers, 85%. That's pretty darn good, right? Accountants, 81% is very good, And, again, during the Enron scandal 20 years ago, profession of accountants, it went down, right? But over the last 25 years, the reputation of accountants have grown. So today, it's a well-respected profession. Okay. So again, we need to keep the reputation of the profession. Dentists also very good, 81%. Journalists not so much. In other words, we don't always trust what the journalist tells us on the news. Only 62%. So that's not very good, really. And even worse, lawyers. Now lawyers, lawyers. I think lawyers are it's a good profession. But for whatever reason, lawyers in North America have a bad reputation, and I think it's partly because of media. When you watch movies or dramas, lawyers are often portrayed as bad guys, as being dishonest, as being self-serving. So that's why perhaps lawyers have maybe an only 50% trust reputation. Worst are business executives, like Elon Musk, the richest guy in the world. They say, well, look at Elon Musk, he bought Twitter, and, look what he's doing. He's very eccentric. The guy's a genius, no doubt, but we sometimes wonder if we can trust executives. And, Enron scandal, we couldn't trust the executives. So, and then here's no surprise, car salesmen, only 28%. Used car salesmen, even worse, okay? But there's one profession that's trusted even less than the car salesperson. You want to guess what that is? What do you think? The profession that's trusted even less than the car salesperson. Can you think? What do you think? I'll tell you. Politician. We don't trust what the politician says, because the politician says anything to get elected, and then after the election he breaks all his promises. He just gives us all whatever BS, right? Yeah. So it's important for professions, like doctors and accountants, engineers, to trust them. All right. And that's why every profession has code of ethics. And here's the code of ethics for the American Medical Association. And they have commonalities. They have commonalities like honesty. It's important to be honest in all transactions. So we want to be honest in all. It says here, there's the word honest there, honest. Okay. And also they say, put the patient first. The patient is paramount. Patient is paramount. So, these are similar code of ethics. We put our client first, the patient first. We have to be honest in our dealings to protect the reputation of the profession. And here's the code for professional financial planners, if you want to be a financial planner. And here it says we put the client's interests ahead of our own. And that means, for example, a financial planner, not all financial planners are like this, but they're supposed to, at least in theory, if they sell me a financial product, they're supposed to recommend the product that is good for me, not the one that pays them the most commission. So, I know it's hard to do, but that's what the professional is supposed to do. They're supposed to say, well, I'll sell you this product because it's good for your situation, not the product that gives me the most profit or commission, right? And we think about marketing. There's rules against fraud or misleading advertising, right? Honesty, again, is important. If you want to be a human resource professional, they talk, human resources are especially into fairness. We want to treat employees with fairness, very important in human resources. And here is the one, an excerpt for CPAs. Now, for CPAs, for accountants, the most important interest is the public interest. And that means the public needs to trust the accounting profession, because just like at Enron, when you don't trust when the public does not trust the accountant, the stock collapses, and the stock market would collapse if we can't trust the accounting profession. So it says here, acting in the public interest is achieved normally by acting in the interest of one's client or employer. So usually if I put the client first, I put the employer first, I serve them, I'm acting in the public interest. However, occasionally, like in the case of Enron, there's a conflict between these interests. Like at Enron, the CEO told the accountant, we want you to show that Enron is profitable, even though it's not. I don't care how you do it, just do it. And so the accountant supposed to say to his boss, he says, Mr. President, I can't do it because the public interest is first, and the public needs to trust the accountant. If I mislead the public, I'm not doing my duty. So I cannot mislead the public. Now he didn't do that, and because of that, Enron collapsed and he went to jail. Okay, so that's why they say acting appropriately in such situations requires courage. So for the accountant, the first obligation is to the public at large. So the public comes first. Protect the reputation of the public at large. The public must trust the accountant. So for the integrity of the stock market. Secondly, the employer or the client. Lastly, self-interest for myself. Okay. So again, these are commonalities in ethical codes. And all ethical codes say we need to be honest, we need to act with due care, we need to put the client's interests ahead of our own, we need to keep secrets, and we need to also act professionally. Do the right, have professional skills, do a good job. Okay. I like the story of the man who says to his doctor, "Oh, doctor, this is my first operation. I'm very nervous." And the doctor says, "I know just how you feel. This is my first time too." Well, that's not too reassuring. And people say, well, doesn't every doctor, every professional have their first time, right? Now, obviously, the doctor is not going to tell you it's his first time. But I would say this, don't worry. If it is the doctor's first time doing the operation, he has standing next to him the supervisor. And the supervisor is an experienced doctor who is supervising the operation. So you don't have to worry. And if you're still worried, you say, I don't want a student doctor working on me, then I'd say, don't go to a teaching hospital. For example, Toronto General Hospital in downtown Toronto is a teaching hospital. Most of the doctors doing the operations at Toronto General are student doctors. Now, if you don't like that idea, then go to a different hospital. Okay, so there you go. So, but professionals, whether student doctors or established doctors, student doctors are supervised. Okay, so we have to trust our professionals. So again, in this course, we talk about achieving success in the right way. Okay, we don't want to break the rules. Some people say, yo, I can break the rules, I can cheat, I can be dishonest and still be successful. Yes, that is true, but we want to do it in the right way. We want to achieve success in the right way. Some people say, well, what about people like Donald Trump? You can love the guy, you can hate the guy. It doesn't matter. We're not in the politics here. But, he has a reputation for being dishonest, for being a cheat. Some people say that he is. Now, here he's saying he's being honest. Some people don't believe it. But some people say, well, look at people like Donald Trump. He lies, he cheats, and yet he's so successful. Yes, you can be successful by doing it in this way, but we want to do it in the right way. And I like a better example of someone like Warren Buffett, who is known for his honesty, who is known for his ethics. He's 92 years old right now. And, the guy is, he's one of the top richest guys in the world. He says, honesty is a terrific policy. He says, be honest in all your business dealings because business is about trust. He says, when you look back in terms of success, the most important thing is you have to love and respect the people. That means you have to act in an honest way. Otherwise, you're always a failure. So I like that. I like to say, we want to achieve success in the right way by doing it honestly, by being trustworthy and being a better human being. You want to be the kind of person who is trusted, no matter what type of work you're doing, no matter what type of profession you do. I still remember, even if you're an auto mechanic, I still remember going to an auto mechanic, and the auto mechanic told me, "Oh, Mr. Eng, we need to fix your air conditioning." I said, "Well, how much?" He says, $1,200. I said, $1,200? That's expensive. I said, "Don't do anything." I said, because I didn't trust him, right? I said, "Give me back the car. Let me think about it." And then I asked my friend who I know has a trusted mechanic. I said, "Recommend me to your mechanic." I went to my friend's mechanic. I said, "Please check my air conditioning." And my friend's mechanic came back to me. He said, "Tom, nothing wrong with your air conditioning. I tested it 3 times. It is cold." I said, "Well, what about the mechanic at the dealer?" He said, "He just wants your money." And so I trust this mechanic. And he has my business for the last 20 years because I trust him. So when you act in a trustworthy manner, in business, no matter what type of work or profession you do, you in the long term, you will get business because people trust. They will give you business because they trust you, right? Okay. So again, let's do our class exercise here, and the class exercise is what would you do? Okay. And I'm going to give you 8 questions, and I'm going to ask you to answer. So I'm going to post the questions. I'll post a multiple choice so you can actually answer online. Okay. And then we can get some of your feedback on that. All right. So here is the if we were doing this live, I'd have you break up into groups, but we're not doing it live. So we'll just I'll post the choices. Okay. And you don't have to type it in the chat. I will post. You can actually click a button. Okay. So here's the first question. We've got 8 questions here. First question. All right. Your friend asks if you like the dress she has just bought. Would you? And you think it's unflattering. You don't think it's very good. Okay. So would you A, tell her exactly what you think? Okay. B, lie and say I love it. Or C, find a truthful way of complimenting her, like I always like you in bright colors. So here are the choices. You just answer online A, B, or C. Okay, so just go ahead and click. And I can see your responses online. I can even see what you said. Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead and answer. We've got 22 people online, and I'd like to try to get as many as possible. So 17 have answered so far, and I want the rest to answer if you can. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? I see your responses. Yeah, I can actually. That's one thing I like about. I've chosen Big Blue Button because it tells me, what you answered. It tells me what you answered. I can see. I can. It shows me the name, and it shows me what your choice was. Yeah, yeah. All right. Okay. Last chance. I've got 20 people who answered. Okay. And okay, so let me post what we've got. Okay, here we have. There you go. All right. So 8 said, "We'll tell her exactly what you think," and C, find a truthful way to answer, like I always like you in bright colors. Okay. So those who said A, in my in-person class yesterday, some of the reasons was they said, well, I've got it's a good friend, and as a good friend, we want to be honest, right? We want, my friend wants to know exactly what I think, right? So maybe that's, I mean, if it's your best friend or something, you guys have a good relationship, and you can think, oh, I don't like the dress; it's ugly, Uh, you can tell her exactly what you think, right? So, I mean, that's a good answer, right? On the other hand, C, I think is probably the best answer because we're concerned about our friends' feelings, right? So we want to be honest, but we also want to show some concern for our friends' feelings. So, for example, if my wife asked me, "Honey, do you think this dress makes me look fat?" And I say honestly, "Oh, you betcha. It makes you look really fat." I get into trouble. And it also made my wife feel bad, right? Okay. So, yeah. So, again, it's important that we're honest, but, we have to consider the other person's feelings as well. And also, my wife might kill me, if I say something like that. Right. So, again, let's go on to the next question here. And here. All right. You notice that a coworker who is having financial problems is stealing from petty cash. So not a friend, but a coworker. But this coworker well enough as stealing from petty cash. So would you A, confront her and encourage her to replace the money. B, notify the supervisor. Or C, keep whatever you have seen to yourself. Okay, so what? Okay, you've got 13 so far. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. Answer if you can. I've got 15 only. If we get some more, that would be great. Okay. Number 4, I've got yours as B. Okay, that's fine. And okay, anyone else? 17, okay. 18, okay. Maybe a couple more. 19, okay. How about we get one or two, one more? I'd like to get up to 20 responses if we can. Okay. A couple have not answered. It's okay. You may be out somewhere. All right. Okay. So I've got 19 who responded. I know some didn't respond yet. That's okay. All right. But let me show you what we have, what the answers are. And there you go. All right. So it's split between A and B, and one would keep quiet. Okay. Now, if you said you'd keep quiet, that's okay. In honesty, actually, a lot of people would. A lot of people would just, you know, they won't say anything because a lot of people just they don't want to be known as a snitch, someone who tells on others, right? People don't like that idea. I don't want to tell on my coworker, right? But ethically, we should do something. And some people say, well, why would you confront her and encourage her to replace the money? Um, One student said, well, if I if I told the supervisor, she's going to get fired, right? She'll definitely get fired. And then she'll be out of a job and she'll be even in more financial difficulty because she won't have a job, right? So that's a problem. So they don't want to hurt the coworker. So I understand that. But in terms of what company would want, our responsibility to the company, the best answer here in this case is actually B, notify the supervisor. Okay, and the reasons, we do have a responsibility to the company to report unethical and illegal activity, and this is what most companies would want you to do. Have any of you ever worked for Canada's Wonderland here? Anybody ever worked for Canada's Wonderland? My son worked for Canada's Wonderland years ago. It was his first job. And I remember he told me about the interview. They interview 4 people at a time, because so many people apply. So they have a group interview. And they ask a question similar to this: what would you do if you saw somebody stealing or something? And uh, my son, out of the 4, he was the only one who said notify the supervisor. The others said something else. Okay. And get this, out of the 4 people in the interview, only my son got the job. Okay. So only my son. So that's really what the company would want. There is actually some schools, some very, like strict schools, like a military school. They've got a policy, like if you see a fellow student or you know of a fellow student who has broken the rules or has done something unethical, like maybe plagiarized, right? Or cheated on a test, it is your responsibility as a student to report that cheating student. If you don't report and we find out that you knew about it and didn't report, you're just as guilty. And I know of a situation where one student, he was at a military school, he knew his roommate had plagiarized on an assignment, and he didn't report his roommate because they were friends, right? Later, his roommate was caught and was kicked out of the school. But later they also discovered that he knew about it and didn't report his roommate, and he too was kicked out of school. So the guy who didn't report it was just as guilty as the guy who committed the crime, and they were both kicked out of the school. So now, don't worry. We don't have that rule at Seneca here, okay? But so for some people, some companies and some schools, they say if you don't report it, you're just as guilty. All right, but I understand if you say, I want to just encourage the person to put the money back, like especially if it's your friend, I can understand that. Okay, let's try this next question here. And the next question says, oh, this is interesting. Okay, here, look. You know that your married coworker is having an affair with his secretary. Ooh, okay. At his office holiday party, you meet his wife. Okay, so you meet his wife. Now, what would you do there? Would you quietly tell his wife about the affair when she's alone? You say, hey, psst, you know what? Your husband is having an affair with the secretary. Your husband's sleeping with the secretary. I thought you should know. I just want to tell you that. Okay. Or maybe you would just choose B. You introduce the co-worker's secretary to his wife with a devious smile. Hey, I'd like you to meet your husband's secretary. Your husband's secretary. You see how beautiful she is? Huh? 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 That's your husband's secretary. You might want to do that, right? That's B. Or just keep your mouth shut. C. Okay. So what do you think? What would you do there? Okay. Keep answering. Okay. Anyone else? Got 19 so far. Anyone else? Answer if you can. I know who couldn't answer. I see your names, but that's okay. See, that's why I like a big blue button. I can see everybody's answers. I can see who didn't answer. So I do know. Okay. Okay. One more. I've got one more guy who you want to answer. Maybe you're away. All right. Okay. Yeah. So that's okay. That's great. All right. So we got 21 responses here, and here's the breakdown. All right. There you go. All right. So we've got interesting. The majority here is actually A. That's interesting. Quietly tell his wife about the affair when she's alone. Interesting. That usually is not number one. B, because some of you want to have a little fun, right? Make your coworker nervous, and kind of hint to the wife, right? And a lot of you chose C as well. Okay. Now, it's interesting. When I often ask students, why would you tell the wife? I mean, and some students will say, well, especially women, they say, well, I'm a woman. I want to support my fellow women, right? If I'm the wife, I want somebody to tell me, and we women have to support each other. I can understand that. That makes a lot of sense. And some other people, the ones who would keep quiet, say, well, she's going to find out sooner or later. She might not, right? So it's interesting. I think in this situation, it's probably best C. We say nothing again because we're not saying it's right, but we are, it's not related to business. It's a personal matter, and they have to work it out on their own. And hopefully, the wife finds out some other way. But in this case, probably the best answer is to say nothing. Okay. Any other comments there? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next question here. Okay. All right. This one, a single friend tells you about her new boyfriend, and you happen to know this man has been emotionally abusive, not physically, but emotionally abusive in previous relationships. Would you A, say nothing, B, tell her what you know, or C, discourage her from getting involved without saying why? Okay, so you go ahead and what you think. Neha, you have a comment? Go ahead. You want to? You can either come online and speak, or you can type it. Up to you. You can do it now if you want. Neha.
Sorry, can I
Hi.
speak? Hi, Professor.
Yes.
Professor, I think if the person is not, truthful in relation, how can we believe that he'll be, truthful towards business too? He
Oh, you
can
mean
cheat in business also.
so if the relationship is not good for the person, it's not good for business. Is that what you're saying?
No, Professor. I'm saying like if the person is not even truthful to the relation, how can we believe that he is truthful to other things too, like our business? He can even cheat in our business for other. He can give information to other.
Oh, so you're saying if the person is not trustworthy, they could give out information to other businesses. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that is true. Some businesses, because of the like in certain high tech companies, you're dealing with a lot of sensitive information. Okay, and especially technology. And so they actually ask employees, if you're like an engineer or something, to sign an agreement that if you were to, that first of all, you can't leak out any sensitive information. Otherwise, they could sue you. All right. And also, if you leave the company, you're not allowed to share any sensitive information. So, yes, it is true that some companies, to safeguard against leaking, especially technology, you have because many companies are on cutting edge technology and they can't allow you to leak it to other people, right? And so they do have rules against that, and they make you sign an agreement that you're not allowed to agree to not allowed to leak. Otherwise, they can prosecute you for doing that. So yes, we have to be able to trust employees that they will not leak out sensitive information. Is that what you're saying? Does that make sense?
Yes, Professor.
Yeah, yeah, and again, we have to legally bind them. In some cases, we have to legally bind them by asking them to sign a contract saying they won't leak it. Okay, if it's really sensitive. Okay, good, good question. Good question.
Thank
Uh,
you, Professor.
sure. And this other question here about emotionally abusive. Here, let me show you the results here. Out of 21 people, there you go. Uh, 15 of you say you tell her what you know. Okay. One would say nothing, and see some of you would say, well, I would discourage her from getting involved, but I wouldn't say why. Maybe because you don't want to implicate the boyfriend, maybe because you don't want to say anything bad about the boyfriend, perhaps, but I think in this case, it is best to, tell her what you know, because, you do care about her as a friend, right? And then you leave the decision up to her. I had a situation similar to that. I actually knew both the guy and the girl, and I knew the guy had a drinking problem. Okay, and the two were dating, and they were planning to get married. And I knew because the guy was my friend as well, and he used to tell me. He said I'd get so drunk that I would pass out, and I'd wake up the next morning on the street, and I had no idea how I got there. So I mean, he really was a drinker, right? And I think he had dealt with a problem. But I wanted to, I decided to tell the girl, I said, before you get married to him, make sure he's dealt with his drinking problem. I think he has, but just make sure because, you don't want to marry somebody who's got a drinking problem. And the story turns out it's got a happy ending. They did get married and they're fine. and he doesn't have a drinking problem today. And they've got kids. So again, I just felt it was my obligation to let her know. Okay, and some of you probably had similar situations as well. Okay, all right. Here's another situation. Let's go to this next question here. Any of your parents here? Maybe if a teenage daughter, you've got teenage daughter is being unusually secretive. Okay, and you come across her diary while cleaning her room. So what would you do here? Would you dust it, hoping that things will improve? Or would you just read the diary? Okay, because you say, well, I'm the parent, I have a right to know, and I'm concerned about my daughter, right? Or would you just kind of leave it alone, but because you care, you'll talk to her later, okay, about your concerns, okay? So what would you say? Okay, anyone else? I've got 20 responses. Anyone else? 21? Anyone else? Okay. Okay, so we got 22. That's good. Very good. All right. So let me just publish, post the results, and we'll see what the responses are. And there. So most of you said C, right? Okay. Um, some of you would read the diary. Okay. I agree with the majority of you. Now, those of you who would read it, uh, it's interesting. I talked to some students, and uh, some of them said, "Well, I'm a parent. I care about my kid, and I understand that." Okay, um, and I don't know if any of you had this situation. I had a couple students, one yesterday in my in-person class, and then one last semester, who said her mother, she's the daughter, and her mother read the diary. Okay, and I said, well, what was your reaction? And both of them said they were very angry and upset. One student got over it and forgave her mother, and they're fine today. The other student said no, she has some issues with her mother, and they have little, conflict. Okay, so you got to be careful if you're going to read the diary. I understand why, but if your daughter ever finds out, she's not going to be happy. Probably won't talk to you for a long time. But I understand why you would do it. But we want to respect our daughter's privacy. Okay. Now the other thing is there's an exception, and the exception is to break confidentiality is we're concerned about her safety. So, for example, if you were afraid that maybe your daughter might commit suicide, could kill herself, definitely I would read it because I'm very concerned about my daughter's safety. Or illegal activity. If I was concerned that my daughter was into illegal drugs or into some type of gang activity, definitely I would check. And this applies to professionals as well. Professionals are supposed to keep client secrets. However, if they testify in a court of law, so for example, in a criminal case, if let's say you're a psychologist and you're testifying for a guy who was a murderer, right? And they ask you, what did your client say? Did he talk about murdering his wife? And you have to answer honestly, yes, he did talk about it. Okay. And so sometimes it's justifiable to break confidentiality. And of course, if you're a psychologist and your client says, I'm going to kill my wife, what are you going to do? You got to call the cops, maybe, you got to do something, right? Because you're worried about safety, right? Or even public safety. If you're talking to somebody who has a gun and says, I'm going to, shoot up some people. And that's happened, right? In the States, there's a lot of mass murders, mass shootings, right? So, yeah. So there are exceptions to break confidentiality. Okay, let's look at this next one here. You go to a friend's yard sale and you see her sell a toaster oven with defective wiring. So would you A, urge your friend to inform the buyer that there might be a problem with the oven? B, inform the buyer yourself, or just keep quiet? So what would you say to that? Okay, a few more. I've got 15 so far. So keep answering. Okay, any more? 17 so far. I need 18. Okay, good. Thank you. Maybe a couple more, maybe, if you can answer. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Well, let me show you what, for those of you who did answer, we got 18 here. This is what you said. So most of you said, yeah, B, or no, sorry, A, urge your friend to inform the buyer that there might be a problem with the oven. Yeah. So that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense. The problem, the reason why I wouldn't keep quiet on this is because it could be a fire hazard. Okay. So, yeah, see, defective wiring could cause a fire. So I tell my friend, I actually tell my friend, I'd say, don't sell the thing. I mean, it's got defective wiring. You can cause a fire, right? And it can be dangerous. I tell my friend, just throw the thing away. Really throw it away. You shouldn't be selling it. And if you do sell it, you got to tell the buyer, right? Because yeah, so that would be the right answer. Now, how about this one here? Imagine this happened to you here at Seneca. Okay. Now, you've been in a committed relationship with your girlfriend for over a year. Okay. So you're thinking maybe I'll marry her one day. I'll marry her. She's your girlfriend. Now, after class, you meet with a pretty female classmate to discuss a class project for 3 hours. Wow. And during the meeting, you will feel an attraction towards this girl because she's pretty, right? So later, your girlfriend asks you, how was your afternoon? So your girlfriend says, oh, well, what did you do this afternoon? So would you say to her, oh, yeah, I had a meeting with my classmate. We had to discuss a class project. But you don't say nothing about her beauty or your attraction. So you just keep it, straightforward, but you don't share any information about her beauty or attraction. So you just choose that. Or B, you spill the beans. You tell her everything. You tell her, yeah, yes, I met with this girl from my class, and we were discussing a class project. And I'll be honest with you. I kind of felt attracted to her because she was pretty. But don't worry, honey. Don't worry. I'm committed to you. You don't have to worry. It was just a momentary attraction. You don't have to feel insecure. Okay? Would you say that? Or would you just or choose C? Here's an option. You tell her, yes, I had a meeting with a classmate, and we discussed the class project. And you don't say anything about your attraction or the fact that she was beautiful. But here's the difference: you make a resolution not to meet your classmate again, and you maybe only meet her in between classes, let's say for 5 minutes, right? And the reason is because you don't want to get involved with you don't want to, you want to avoid temptation, essentially, right? So that's C. And you just communicate maybe through email. Okay, and the other way to think about it is this: if you're a girl, okay, and you have a boyfriend, how would you want your boyfriend to act? Okay, if you have a boyfriend, what would you want your boyfriend to do? A, B, or C? Okay, so if you got a boyfriend, what would you want your boyfriend to do? All right, so here. No, go ahead and answer honestly. I won't hold it against you. Okay, a couple more. We got 18 so far. Okay, anyone else? Any more? Okay. Last chance. You want to click? All right, let me show you what we have in terms for out of 18 answers. There. So the vast majority did choose C, and I agree with you. I mean, obviously I agree that we want to avoid temptation. But, I'm surprised that really only three said A, because, honestly, most guys would choose A. Most guys would do that. you know, you, they wouldn't say anything because, they just don't want to. That's what most guys are like. I don't know. Now, some of you said B. Now, if you happen to be a girl, is this and you a boyfriend? Would you really want him to tell you about his attraction to someone else? Anybody want to venture to say anything about that? If you're a girl, would you? I know some guys said, I want to be perfectly honest. I want to be open and honest. I understand that. That's great. Wonderful for you. But you know, uh, if you're a girl and you hear about that, it might make you feel upset. Wouldn't you be upset? Wouldn't you feel insecure, perhaps? Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah, I think so. So that's why I think if the best answer probably would be C. A lot of girls say to me, you know, if I'm a girl and this happened to my boyfriend, I don't want him to tell me. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But if he's committed to me, and I assume he is, I want him to avoid temptation. Yeah. So that's what a lot of girls would say. So a lot of girls would want this as well. Okay. Now, if you don't avoid temptation, some of you, if you choose A and say, well, I'll just meet with her. Maybe next time I'll meet with her for 6 hours. Well, you got to be careful with that because you could get into trouble, right? That's how affairs start. Okay, so again, you got to be careful. What if we get to know about it in the future? Well, you won't know about it unless the boyfriend tells you, or unless you happen to know the girl. It makes us overthink more. Yeah, it probably does. Yeah, I mean, if your boyfriend tells you about it, or your husband, yeah, you could feel jealous, and you can overthink it. It is true because the fact is, human beings, men and women, we will be attracted to other people. It's not like you're attracted to one person, right? You can be attracted to others, but the key is what you do about it, right? So if you want to be ethical, and as the agreement says, yeah, we could get messed up. If we want to be ethical, we want to keep the relationship, then we do what we have to avoid temptation, right? Because yes, we will be attracted to other people, but as long as we limit the time, as long as we avoid the temptation, then we can keep the relationship secure or the marriage secure. Because that's how marriages break up. That's how relationships break up, because people are always straying, right? So, okay. All right. One last question here. Suppose a grocery store clerk, all right, has just been nasty to you, treated you rudely, okay, accidentally gives you $20 too much change. So would you return the money right away? B, give the money to charity, or keep the money, C, on the grounds it serves her right. All right, so what you do? It's okay to choose C, by the way. Okay, anyone else would like to respond? I've got 20. I've got 19 right now, and okay. So let me publish the results, and 20 people. Okay, out of 20 people, great. And here are the responses. Here we go. There you go. So vast majority chose A, right? And you're all good people, all right? You return the money right away. Some of you said give the money to charity, and I mean, I had a student yesterday who said, I give the money to charity because my parents. That's what my parents taught me to do. Because he said his parents once found $100, didn't know who it belonged to, so they donated to charity. So that's good. Yeah, that's okay. And some of you said return the money right away. And some students say, well, I want to show this clerk that I'm above being petty. You treat me bad, but doesn't matter. I'm not your level. I'm not coming down to your level. I'm giving you the money back. And of course, that's the right answer. See, in ethics, the key is this: it's not dependent upon how the other person treats you. People are going to treat us with disrespect all the time. They're going to treat us, they're going to say bad things. They're going to, do nasty things to us. Yeah, there are people like that, unfortunately. But an ethical person says it doesn't matter how you treat me. I'm going to treat you with respect no matter what. And that's how you really build trust in the long term. Some people say, well, you treat me bad, I'm going to treat you double bad, right? I'm going to give it back to you. But that's not the ethical way. Okay, so you don't treat others the way they treat you. You follow the golden rule, which says you treat others the way you would want to be treated. Okay, so that's it for today's class. And let me take attendance one last time here. So give me a sec. Don't leave yet. I'm going to download all the names. Okay. All right. So I've done that. I've downloaded